writing is such a gift, and don't go chasing what is popular right now, because you will be 2 years behind the curve by the time that it's, if it ever comes out, you're going to be behind. You need to be writing from the heart, write something that's truthful. People talk a lot about what your voice is, and that is very important, but what's more important is truth. Truth will reach to the bedrock of someone's soul and rock it and make them confront their virtues and what they believe is their worldview. And if you can be truthful with yourself, it is the greatest gift you will have in life, because it will empower you in ways that go far beyond writing novels, screenplays, shopping lists. You will be able to walk through the world in a whole new light.
Welcome to Film Forums. I'm Sean Johnson, and I'm sitting down with Edward Drake, writer, director of the film Apex. And we're going to be talking to him a little about the film and also the filmmaking process. So Edward, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing really well, thanks. I'm curious. I know you're from Australia, and I know that you've been, we talked a little bit before the interview. You've been in LA for about 10 years now. I'm curious, what made you want to become a filmmaker? What was really the inspiration of that?
Film was a way for me to connect with the world. I traveled between Australia, London, Ireland, France a lot, and I was able to, this is I'm going to date myself here, but it was the days before social media. And so film was this beautiful common language where I could connect with other people. And also in Australia back then, films didn't come out for like a long time before they were released in UK territories. And so I was able to pretty much every school holidays, I'd fly to the UK. I'd save up all my money. I'd work my ass off, and then I would buy DVDs, books, everything, and I could bring them back. I had one of the first copies of A Knight's Tale in Australia, and I watched that film so many times the DVD stopped working. It's films like Snatch, great English storytellers. I was obsessed with this Cockney way of storytelling and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's honestly always just been a way for me to learn more about myself and how to communicate with the world, and hopefully give that experience back to someone else who's a only child trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do with their life.
Do you remember the first film you ever shot?
I ever shot?
Yeah. Well, you ever wrote, you ever directed? I guess maybe you really actually stepped on set to make.
Yeah. So I did a faux David Attenborough Spinal Tap documentary about my dog. So because I moved around a lot, I was allowed to get a dog, but it could be no bigger than a cat, which limits a lot of the breeds you can get. So I found this rescue dog who was a pure Maltese, but she was rescued by a family that had Rottweilers. And this tiny, her name was Puppy because she was so small and everyone thought she was a puppy, but she was raised by Rottweilers, so she thought she was a Rottweiler. And so she had the Rotty walk and everything. She had so much personality. She was such a fun dog. And she was my best friend. And I did this fake documentary about her. And then that did well in school. And then I did another fake documentary about a cousin of mine who was a skateboarder. I might be outing myself a little bit because I did this documentary and I needed to find an emotional twist to it. And so I suggested that he died at the end of it. And I got an A from my teacher because I think that they were like, oh my God, this is so heartbreaking. Your cousin died and all this other stuff. And I was just like, yeah, he's totally dead, gonzo. And then the school put the video on YouTube. This was early days of YouTube. And then my my aunt saw it and was like, what is this? That William's not dead. What did you do? And I was like, yeah, but I got an A, so it was worth it. And it all worked out. So those were probably my first films. And then there was a feature film that I shot and edited and almost got released in when I was 19.
That's fascinating to me. When I think about, now you've worked on several projects with Bruce Willis now. Apex stars Bruce Willis, Neal McDonough, who I love. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Ravenous, but it's this really weird. Oh yeah, that was the first time I got introduced to him. Thinking back to those first experiences, and then to be working on projects that have people that are, in everyone's conversation around the dinner table. What have you learned since then? What do you continue to learn? How have you grown as a filmmaker, as a writer, as a director from those experiences and the contrast between those experiences?
Every day is a gift. I wake up excited to work every single day, and I never imagined. I mean, I was homeless and living in my car 4 years ago, and then I worked my way out of that situation, writing every single day, introduced a lot of discipline into just my work habits, and that's something I'm so grateful for. It's the best thing that could have ever happened to me, and that changed my life. And I never take a single second of this for granted, to be able to sleep in a bed and have a roof over my head.
And something that you talked about with me before we started recording, I'm curious. So in my free time, I volunteer my time to host meetups for actors and filmmakers. And a lot of them are, just starting out or even just curious about this as a career. And one of the things that a lot of them struggle with is writing, kind of the discipline of writing. Now, it sounds like part of your discipline may have been born from necessity of what you're going through, but do you have any advice or, based on your experience, what would you tell people that kind of, I know you say you're the luckiest guy in the world to be doing what you're doing. What if someone else is out there dreaming, thinking like, I would be the luckiest person in the world if I could do this? What advice would you give to those people that they might be able to sink their teeth into?
I know it's cheesy, but it is, if I can do it, literally anyone else can do it. I could not spell. I have dyslexia. I was terrible. I was a C+ English student, but I would read. Every second that I could get. I would watch, everything from TV, film. I was never hugely into video games. I'd play a couple of the single player campaigns like Halo and that sort of a thing. But what drew me to those were great stories, and the stories that we see repeating through history. I would say writing is such a gift, and don't go chasing what is popular right now, because you will be 2 years behind the curve by the time that it's, if it ever comes out, you're going to be behind. You need to be writing from the heart, write something that's truthful. People talk a lot about what your voice is, and that is very important, but what's more important is truth. Truth will reach to the bedrock of someone's soul and rock it and make them confront their virtues and what they believe is their worldview. And if you can be truthful with yourself, it is the greatest gift you will have in life, because it will empower you in ways that go far beyond writing novels, screenplays, shopping lists. You will be able to walk through the world, in a whole new light.
And you talk about confronting the truth in ourselves, and that brings me a lot to Apex and the film that you've made. Can you tell us, for everybody watching at home, if I didn't say it, I didn't say it, please subscribe to Film Forums if you're enjoying this interview. And I know a lot of people who follow Film Forums are also, curious to learn from people like you. And, for you, what were some of the themes that you were exploring, and how do you show them, to the audience? How do you take them through those experiences with this film?
Yep. Like and subscribe to Film Forums, guys, because it's a great resource. I when I was learning the ins and outs of filmmaking, film forums, a lot of other podcasts, script notes, the Q&A, that sort of a thing, incredible resources. Yeah, the prey and the hunters are the most interesting part of the Apex world to me. What drives someone, like, what are they searching for going to this island and hunting another human being? They have tasted all of the goods that life has to offer, and for them to be still wanting more, still wanting to be able to indulge that bloodlust, says so much about them more than it does the hero. Bruce is Malone. Malone is aware of that psychological need that they have to be able to tap into just a desire to satiate this primal reptilian urge to spill blood and test themselves on an artificial battlefield. And they are stacking the odds in their favor so much. They are so overconfident, and that is just something that can be undercut by Malone, and using little mind tricks to turn them on each other, play on old grudges, sense where he can duck and weave, create a distraction that can lure two enemies together so that he can then pick off the scraps, live to fight another day, that sort of a thing. My big thing is that I'd love to just do My Dinner with Andre, but My Dinner with Apex, and just have all of these killers seated around a table, talking and expressing their worldview, because I think as audience members, this awareness and this truth that I'm talking about can be, reflected in what we're seeing as the character traits of someone like Rainsford. And if he saves 1 million people a year with his pharmaceutical company, but he indulges 5 apexes a year, so he hunts 5 human beings a year, is it worth it for the greater good? And that's something that I think is a little fun moral dilemma that audiences can sink their teeth into.
What was the budget for Apex? Are you at liberty to talk about that?
Yep, it was 3 packets of peanuts and a roll of gaffer tape, plus 1 Bruce Willis and a sprinkling of Neal McDonough, and then there you go.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. And I mean, well, really, I think to that end, talking about this film, what is in your view? I mean, obviously, this is a baby of yours that you've raised and reared, and but what are the films of this type, of this budget, of this in this genre? What is the importance of them in your view in the world today, in the world of filmmaking today?
We're not making my right foot or my left foot. We're not making. We're making a film that is a way for us to express this side of ourselves, where we can have fun with cinema. We can hopefully be a bit cheeky. We can give you a release. Films like these are releases for the audience. And I think the reason Apex is hitting home with, honestly, so many people that are seeing it, is that we're aware of the joke, we're aware of the film that we're making. This was what was so great about this cast, is that we all knew the movie we were making. And that's the number one thing that I would love to try and instill in younger filmmakers, is to make sure that, take Heat, for example. Now, Heat is so perfectly cast, all the way from Danny Trejo to De Niro. And then you've got Pacino. And Pacino is doing something that if he wasn't a master, if another actor was trying to go to that level, say, give me what you got. Yeah, give me what you got. That sort of a thing. It wouldn't work. But the genius with Michael Mann is that he is able to tie everyone in, make them feel like they are part of the same world. And tonally, I don't worship at the altar of tone as much of a lot of other filmmakers do. I think that a film can be many different things. I think that if there's a very tense moment, letting it off with a little bit of light comedy, playing to the farce, the slapstick humor, that's fun for the audience, because we're living in the moment and it's spontaneous. And we're, when you worship tone, you can be very predictable, because that tone usually is dictated by tropes and like cliches and that sort of thing. I think it's just so much more fun as an audience to be like, what the hell am I watching right now? this is fantastic. When I, like, for example, when I pitched this, I said it's Mr. Magoo meets Predator. And no one knew what I was talking about, but instinctively they knew that they liked it. And we just had fun with it. So we're just, for Apex, I really hope audiences just have fun.
Now, in terms of, I'm glad you kind of mentioned about pitches. This is another area that comes up a lot in the topics that I talk with young filmmakers about is, they don't really know anything about the pitching process. They don't know how to make a good pitch. They don't know where to pitch. They don't know how to get their foot in the door. What recommendations or, what has been your experience been with that?
Either kick down that door or build your own house and then live in it. Honestly, this gatekeeping culture exists for a very good reason, because you need people to vouch for you. This whole industry relies on trust and faith that, like, this is show business and there is a business side to it where you need to make sure that, like, look, right now I'm doing 3 films that have a budget that is north of 15 million. And there is a trust. Like, if I had just walked off the street, knocked on the door, why would anyone trust you with a $15 million business? Like, you need to build faith, surround yourself with good people, support them in their times of need, cheer for them for their victories, be there for them through the peaks and valleys. And if you're a good person, good things will follow. And, like, there's a difference between being persistent and being annoying. And just, like, if you want good things for other people and you can say that with sincerity in your heart, then there's nothing stopping you.
What is your style when you're directing actors, when you're working with actors? How would you describe your style?
I want them to bring their own truth to the character. So I would rather play to, say, natural tendencies of Neal McDonough, rather than have him fabricate this entire backstory for Rainsford, because we just don't have time on these shoots. This is an 8-day shoot. Cosmic Sin was a 9-day shoot. American Siege was an 8-day shoot. We're trying to tell a feature film in 8 days. Hallmark, Lifetime, they get 14 days. A half-hour episode of most of the CW TV shows that shoot up here are 8 days. So what I need actors that I can honestly just sit down, have a talk with, go for a 5-minute walk with, and say, how can we bring more of you to this character instead of you reaching and searching? And we just don't have time to do that discovery right now. But if you can find that truth and it comes through, that's why you get Lachlan Monroe's performance in Apex was so much fun, because he was so ready to be self-aware and play on his own cheekiness and his own fun. And honestly, that's one of my favorite scenes in the whole film, if not my favorite, when he's just walking through the forest talking to himself, because Lachlan and I have worked together 4 or 5 times now. We just got stuck in Dallas trying to get back to Vancouver for 2 days, and it was fantastic. And we were talking about this scene. We just improv'd it. That none of that was on the page. And originally, as it was scripted, it was Lyle stalks through the forest, hunting Malone, trips, picks himself up, keeps going. I said, no, there's something more interesting we can do with this. We can get an insight into Lyle here. And so I was off camera. It was me and Y. We were both operating, and we were both throwing out, Monroe was throwing out lines, I was twisting it, throwing it back, and then we were able to create this really good rhythm. And we didn't even block the scene. We just kind of were like, you're going to start here and you're going to end here, and we're going to have fun all the way through. And I think that's I've heard David O. Russell works in a similar way, but it's something that you need a readiness from the actors to breathe in. Is this the only way to make films? Absolutely not. Is it the way to have fun and on these 8-day shoots? Absolutely. And we we don't take ourselves too seriously. We've got, like I said, we've got the best job in the world. We're making movies, we're having fun, and so long as we're not wasting the audience's time, that's all that matters.
Do you have a fear of success? Do you have a fear of failure? How do those exist in your life?
I think a lot more people are more afraid of success than they will ever admit, and that's what holds them back. I believe that the more open we can be with ourselves and identify what our goals are, clarify. Paolo Coelho wrote these two amazing books, The Archer and The Alchemist, and I recommend them to anyone if they're in the creative field or not. It's just about how to identify goals and work through your own process. Honestly, I keep a Bible and the Alchemist next to my bed, and The Alchemist to me it's probably the greatest gift to modern spirituality that we've seen in the past 40 years. It was 25 years old, I think, in 2018, and it's changed more lives than decades of therapy for some people. I gift that book to pretty much every cast and crew member who hasn't read it. I think it's good. To answer your question, identify your goals, seek out these books, and they will help you to be able to understand how to identify what you want out of life, and how to go about it in a way that doesn't hurt anyone and makes the world a better place.
And maybe just one or two more questions. I guess, what do you personally find from conception all the way through post-production, release, distribution, which do you find the most challenging process for you? And, what have you learned through facing that?
To have the serenity to accept the things that you cannot change, and to move through. I don't get final cut on these films, and the distributors are amazing, and they want to see certain things from these films, so they do their own cut. And being okay with understanding, no, this is a collaboration. And that's my favorite part of the process, is speaking with actors, realizing the vision of the producers. What do the distributors want? Coming up with interesting solutions. The harder we work, the more we dig deep into what the note actually means, the better the film. And so, I love it. I kind of love not having final cut, because there's a natural tension there that we both, all parties in the room, have to work with each other to create the best story possible. My view of being a director is very keeping the train with a singular vision, of course, but also the best idea wins. I try and take the ego out as much as possible, and allow us to create this environment where everyone feels comfortable with, well, what if we did that? And look, if it makes for a better film and it's right for the moment, then absolutely, why wouldn't we do that? It's only people that are very insecure that will reject a great idea for fear of looking like they've been bested. Just the collaboration process, be open to it, be flexible, let people in. That's what makes it fun.
I love that. And, one last question. Obviously, in the news lately, there's the tragic story of what happened on the set of Rust. I guess I'm curious about the filmmaking process for Apex. Was it VFX? Was it live rounds? What did you guys do on your set?
It was tragic what happened on Rust. And I think the reason it hurts so much is that it was pure gross negligence. And I just wrapped a film that was the first feature to shoot right in New Mexico right after Rust. So we went to camera 2 days after the tragedy, and we created the safest set on earth. Our financiers were incredible, and they had our back with we want to ensure that the crew feels safe. My biggest metric for what makes a successful film is if the cast and crew can go home each night and see their family safely. for Apex, we had a couple of practical explosions, but gun safety has always been you've got to respect that these are firearms. If you're loading full, like half quart blanks in them, full blanks, there's this amazing technology, solid plugs, which I think are going to revolutionize the film and TV industry now, because you still get a bit of a recoil, but there's nothing that's being projected out of the muzzle of the weapon. And they are super safe. They don't make a huge noise. They still eject a shell out of it. And it gives the actor a natural reaction, but they're safe as anything. We did demonstrations for them on my last set, and everyone, even in the wake of Santa Fe and Rust, everyone was more than comfortable. And like we ran a very safe, smart set. We invited everyone to ask every question, because as soon as you start putting up, little roadblocks, that sort of thing, that's where the mistrust sets in. But we just brought everyone in and we're like, do you want to, here is like our script. He was checking out every single weapon on set. We had the PAs come through, and everyone could feel and see that we were really trying to create the safest set possible. So anyway, I hope there's an answer in there.
I think there is. And Edward, I want to thank you for your time. I know we're just a minute or two over. I feel like bringing up that topic, I want to say our hearts go out to Lena Hutchins and her family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Edward, thank you so much. I wish you all the best of luck with the film Apex and every project you have moving forward. You're a great soul, I can tell. And everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Please, again, subscribe to Film Forums on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and I wish you all a wonderful and lovely day.